Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review for The Hunting Party Season 1, Episode 2. We now have a chance to actually see if this show has a rhythm, has a style. The title for this episode is Clayton Jessup, which I find funny mostly because we've gone from a central adversary in episode 1 who looked like Walton Goggins to an adversary in episode 2 who sounds like they should be played by Walton Goggins. Like the name Clayton Jessup, it sounds like I'm just gonna go over here and I don't know, get me something to drink. Like, what kind of name is this?
Every show needs Walton Goggins on it. Let's just be real here.
I know. Ironically, the White Lotus is starting soon with Walton Goggins, but like this episode, I think it had some things that were going for it. I think it had some things that still need to be worked on. The important thing to really remember about network TV in particular is that it kind of finds its way as it goes along. This is not like a Severance, which seems to be a lot more locked down with some sort of like crazy secure vision from the get-go.
Yeah, not everything can be The Blacklist or This Is Us, where the pilot is really good right out of the gate. There's a lot of shows that just take a little bit of time to find their legs, and it feels like this show is going to get there. I mean, the first episode was quite good. It was kind of unfortunate the way that they put it out a month ago and nobody really knew it was dropping until right before it dropped. And then nothing for 4 weeks. And then they have a repeat. And now we're here with the second episode. I mean, I'm hoping that the people that watched it like us a month ago are going to be back for this episode, because I think this show deserves a chance.
Yeah, it has some potential. We'll talk about some things that are working, some early theories, because there is a larger mystery with the pit and, you know, who's behind the fire, what the end goal is. We'll get into all of that and then some. Before we do, hit that subscribe button. We are going to be here throughout all of the Hunting Party this season with reactions, reviews, theories. We're going to try to get to the bottom of what is really going on here, because unlike Bex and the team, they have to be preoccupied with all these other people that they have to take out. We can just fix ourselves on the big meat of things.
Yeah, so hit the subscribe button, stick with us. We'll be here every week with reviews for the Hunting Party so we can all go through it together. And also, speaking of the Hunting Party Pit, we are also covering a show called The Pit over on Max. It's not here at the channel. It is over on our Patreon exclusively. We will leave a link for you below. We're also covering Prime Target, which is airing on Apple TV Plus over at our Patreon. And thank you so much to everyone who has joined our Patreon. It really helps Matt and I here to be able to continue to make videos for you guys. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate that.
Okay, so
yes,
this wasn't an accident. It was a jailbreak. So who here is surprised? Raise your hands. Nobody? All right, cool. We all on the same page here. I don't think any of us thought that it was bad pipes that just happened to have an accident. It's just, no. We all understand that this underground silo is older, and that's fine, but we've seen what it looks like in there. Even though it was an older silo, it's clearly been updated.
Yeah, this thing has undergone some renovations, and this whole idea of, okay, how and why did these prisoners escape from the pit? Like, we all have to have just our hard hats on and ready here that you're not going to get answers on this anytime soon. This is a potential season or seasons long mystery. They're going to try to string this along however long they can. This is network TV, but what I'm hoping for is that we're going to get a few little nuggets kind of sprinkled in throughout.
Yeah, and we did. I was actually kind of surprised that by episode 2, Hassani gets this message that's like, got the results of the explosives from this unknown sender. And I was just like, unknown sender? That's kind of sketchy. So I'm kind of got my eye on Hassani a little bit here as well now. But, you know, the guard who was pulled out from where the blast originated had like C4 on him, came back positive. This was absolutely planned. This was not an accident. And I think that it's important that we got that information right away. But the piece of information that I was really surprised that they gave us so early on is that 10 minutes before this blast happened, a whole bunch of data had been stolen from the pit, and this breach came from Odell. He knew that this blast was coming, and I think we all knew that Odell was going to have something to do with it.
Yeah.
But here the mystery is the motive. Why did he do this?
Yeah, I have a lot of different questions about the timeline. Why did Odell do this? Was this always his plan from the get-go? Was this something that he sort of jumped on board at the last second? Like, where does he sort of fall in this larger scheme of things? Because I've got two different ideas, and they completely go all over the place.
Okay.
There's the idea that Odell did something to these prisoners. He's always been in the know about everything that's going on at the pit. And he's really this horrible, nefarious person who experimented on these prisoners and wants them out there wreaking havoc for some motive that does not appear to be altogether unclear, other than he's just bad. But then there's the other idea of it, where he knows that what was going on at the pit was absolutely terrible, but in order to kind of reform the pit into a place that's not doing that, there needed to be something really crazy and elaborate like this. But that's a big risk to let prisoners out and then think you're going to be able to bring them back in and then change the prison.
Yeah, good guy Odell, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
This is not only a huge risk, but people are getting hurt.
Yes.
And people are going to be getting killed for this. And I understand the idea that maybe he didn't feel that great about what was going on. No one was listening to him. There was no way to change this. There was no way to stop this unless he just got rid of the pit entirely. But the fact that this information was taken first, it feels like he has a bigger plan. Here's my tinfoil hat.
Okay.
So I think this guy mostly deals in secrets, and in that kind of way that Reddington did a little bit on the Blacklist. He knew everybody's secrets, so he knew how to be able to manipulate situations all across the board. And I think by him taking these prisoners' information, he's also possibly got information on the people that were doing the experiments that maybe he's going to be able to puppeteer everybody around him. I mean, we even kind of saw this with Bex, where we learned about Eli and her first sort of, we'll call it arrest, when she was much younger with her friend Naomi, and learned that her father was killing these people and found this rope in the garage. We got a little more of that story where he actually came in and caught her, and that Naomi was actually in there with her, and she ran off. The daughter stayed. She ran home, told an adult, which is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But by the time everybody got there, there was this huge shootout. Her friend got killed, and Eli's basically like, it's your fault. Not only is it your fault for leaving Naomi behind, but also you lied to the police about it. And I know. I'm like, who's going to believe you? Like, and why would anybody take your side over her side? Like, yeah, maybe she didn't say that Naomi was there, but she did the right thing. She did run. She did go and tell somebody. She got the authorities there and she got him arrested. However, Odell knows about this. Kind of, sort of. Like, he was able to explain what Eli knew, but who else knew this information but Eli? So why is he this close to Eli to know this information, to then be like, hey, I'm good guy Odell. I covered up this secret for you, Bex. Like, don't worry about it. I'm the person that helped get you into the academy, because if they knew you lied to police, you never would have gotten in there, so you can trust me. And it's kind of worked a little bit where she's just like, wow, you didn't have to do that for me, but you did. I'm just like, girl, you didn't tell anybody about this. So, like, where do you think he got this information from? He's not good guy Odell. He got this information from Eli. And then it's like, don't worry, I got your back on this secret. She could have been like, I don't know what you're talking about, guy.
This dude Odell is complicated. Like, I don't think he's good guy. He's bad guy, but I don't know if he's 100% bad guy either. He might just be...
He lit someone on fire when he didn't have to.
He could be in some sort of gray area. Like, he doesn't have to be the most horrible human being who has ever lived. He's definitely not a saint. Like, we know that. I think if this show really is trying to follow a blueprint of the Blacklist. Like, we know Raymond Reddington killed a ton of people. Like, he was
Yes.
definitely not a good person. When he did bad things, though, there was often some sort of reason for it. I think they're probably doing the same thing with Odell to a certain extent. Like, the thing that is weird about this show in particular is that all of the dudes are kind of shady. And that's why, whether it's a good or bad thing, we can get into that. But we've got everything going on with Odell. Like, that much is obvious. You already mentioned that there's something a little bit off about Hassani and what he's kind of doing, digging into things and kind of doing it quietly.
I just think by episode 2, Beck should not be trusting Odell to the point that she's like, hey, I need to apologize. And he's like, no apology needed. You did the right thing turning me in on what I did. I'm just like, she is so smart and so intuitive that she picked up on Eli at such a young age, but then she's going to be blinded by Odell, who's basically like, I have a secret of yours that I could tell, but I didn't tell, but I could still tell. It's just like, I know the way he worded it, he's wording it to try to be like, hey, you can trust me. I got you. I got your secret. But at the same time, he's basically like, I got you. I have your secret.
I think the problem here, they've been out there in interviews teasing there's a possible love triangle, insert groaning effects here, that Bex and him probably have more of a history than we know about at this point.
Probably.
And I think she's probably a little bit blinded by that, so that she's not seeing the full intention behind some of his words. I mean, I will just say in particular, I could care less about this love triangle idea. We're not seeing it that much on screen as of yet, but Odell, we don't really trust. Shane is the last person on the dudes I don't trust list with Hassani and Odell.
Yeah, I don't trust any of the guys at this point. It feels like, Hassani's got a message coming in from an unknown sender.
Yeah.
And now we also know that Odell stole a bunch of information from the pit before it went up in flames. So he definitely is someone not to trust. We know what he's done in his past where he's killed people he doesn't have to after he's gotten the information. And he just feels like a guy who deals in information.
The big picture about the pit right now is that we know before all this happened, they were doing some sort of experiments on these prisoners. Now, what's the end goal and all of that? Like, I'm sitting here and, I have my tinfoil hat on thinking, okay, either they're doing this sort of research on them to see if there's a different way that they can reform them, or they're training them for some sort of specific and or deadly purpose later on down the line. Like, there's a reason the public does not know about this. It's because whatever they're doing in there is really, really dangerous, to the point where I think that the people even working there don't in full understand what's exactly going on. Like, that's the part of Shane that I can believe to a certain extent, where you work there, but maybe you're not told the full picture of things. Like, I get that part of it. I'm not saying I trust him, but I feel like this is a very need to know basis when it comes to this place. And maybe that's a mystery that'll get solved at the end of the season, or maybe we'll get a few more clues at least on that before then.
Yeah, I think that this Clayton Jessup case was a lot more important than we might see it as just the case of the week. I think the key to it were those videos that he was watching, where basically a doctor from the pit created those videos very specifically for him. And it feels like it was a way to either do experiments on him, control him. It was such a controlled thing that they did for him that it felt very specific in what their motivation was to try to get him to do whatever it was that they wanted to do. I know the doctor's like, oh, I was so close to having him reformed, but it's like, was that actually where you were going with it?
I'm kind of in the vantage point at this point that these people were all being trained to do something terrible down the road, that they are either prolonging these people's psychoses or finding a way to activate it. They're giving them, I don't know, sort of these Pavlovian moments where they're going to immediately like jump out and commit some sort of crime. And maybe the whole fire at the pit is just to make sure that that didn't happen long term and they couldn't be, used for something nefarious. I will say, the best part of the show right now is the creativity that they're coming up with when it comes to these bad guys of the week, because this is something the Blacklist did a really good job at. I mean, there have been
Yep.
other shows over the years. I mean, Blind Spot's a good example of one
Mm-hmm.
that you have these really interesting ne'er-do-wells who you come across over the course of the show, and they have sort of these weird, demented, or quirky aspects about them. And if you're going to do a procedural, you have to find ways that the bad guys are going to stand out over a course of a single episode. And Clayton did that. Not saying I want to watch the dude, but I'm just saying that I think that he is memorable enough to sort of justify being in a place like the pit. And you kind of have to work that out as you go along.
He absolutely is. He
Mhm.
was so memorable. He was really important because he did bring Bex to this doctor where she's starting to learn a little more information about what's going on. Hassani has already been like, I'm just not telling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Odell is only telling what he wants her to know. All three of these men are just kind of playing games and keeping her in the dark and like ping ponging her around where she isn't getting enough information. Even this doctor and his story, where he's like, I haven't been there in like a while,
Yeah.
like after what happened with Clayton and my back getting broken and I was so close to having a breakthrough. It's like, okay, well, what was that breakthrough? Was it really reform? Because I don't think so. Like,
No.
if it really was to the point that he was almost there, then he wouldn't be completely regressing into what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's just why I'm just leaning right now so much more that somebody was training these people in the pit so that they could be used for some nefarious purpose, and that this fire is a way to basically keep that from happening.
Yeah, they were probably being put together to be some sort of a merc squad or something.
Yeah, all right. That's the good stuff that's going on here with the hunting party.
All right, let's drag something. So here's what my beef had.
All right, all right.
Okay, as much as I did really like the Clayton stuff, and I did,
Yeah.
I found that last scene with him like holding the doctor, which was completely creepy and weird,
Yeah.
and I really like that. The part with Bex going back and forth with him dragged. It dragged and dragged and dragged, and it felt like they didn't give her enough to say to make her be like a negotiator of someone who's really able to get through to him. There was a lot of, hey, you don't want to do this. Hey, you'll be okay. Hey, just put him down. It'll be all right. I was just like, you need to have something else to say. Like, this isn't enough.
My feeling is kind of a little bit on those lines. It really has to do with if I was, NBC executive man and I was watching these episodes in advance, I would be like, well, these guest stars are really, really good, but these normal characters, what makes them stand out? And by that, I mean mostly the main characters on this show right now feel too cookie cutter for me, and especially when you're comparing it to the Blacklist. And I know that's unfair because I'm not saying anybody can be James Spader, so let's get that out of the equation right now.
Right.
But even if you take Reddington out of the Blacklist and you're looking at the other characters, or even with Blind Spot, you take Jane out of the equation, look at everybody else. It's like you have really quirky, interesting people, whether it's an Aram or a Cooper, or these people for right now, though, just don't feel like we have anything that's that interesting about them beyond whether or not we can trust them. And that's a good hook, but it's not enough for me that we just have untrustworthy dude 1, 2, and 3. And even with Bex, can we have her have a little bit more fun? I don't know, put her in an interesting costume, make her go undercover somewhere, like do something that's a little bit more creative.
They feel like a bunch of wrestlers. And at the beginning of the
Yeah.
Blacklist, Wrestler did not have enough to do. They started to find legs for him in the middle there, but at the beginning, he just was, Agent Wrestler, and there's
Yeah.
not much else going on there. And the same with Hassani. I don't know enough. Like, there's nothing there yet. Even with Bex, we know a little bit, but I was really hoping that scene where she was trying to talk Clayton down, we were going to get a little bit deeper into her and her connections and why she's so covenant as, this agent, why she's so important to be brought on this case. And it's like, is she just brought on because Odell thinks that he can puppet her, or is she brought on because she's as good as he says she is? Because I didn't see that in that negotiation.
No, it's a big question right now of what makes Bex so special in particular. Like, I know that she's good at profiling. You set that up well in the pilot, but it's just like, I don't know enough about her, but beyond that, I just want to see this show embrace the quirkiness of its main characters as much as they are the bad people that they're chasing down, because then that gives us a balance, and then that gives us a reason to want to watch these people week to week beyond just sort of understanding what's going on at the pit. That's a mystery, but there are a ton of other shows that have mysteries. Like, that's not exclusive to the Hunting Party.
It feels like a bit of a reverse card of what happened over on the Blacklist, because when we first saw Liz on the Blacklist, she was interesting. She was compelling. She was a really good profiler. She was able to like pick up on things really fast. And that's what made her such a compelling character. And then they just lost the script with her. And I don't know what happened later on. And here it's like, yeah, we had some of that in the premiere. And then they lost the script here on Bex already. And it feels like they don't have enough with her yet. But maybe they can get there where she's really more padded and meaty, and we're really getting into what she can do and to watch her cook.
Like, this is a show with a lot of promise. It has the central premise is really interesting. And I think so long as you have that and you have the mystery of, okay, why did the pit go up in flames? What were they doing there? Like, that's something that is very, very strong. You can make everything else better as you go around. And I hope that that's what this show is doing. It's not, a super long season for a network show, but it has potential to go on for a long time. So let's cross our fingers, hope for the best. Let's be weird. Well, that's our cool reaction and review for The Hunting Party Season 1, Episode 2. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any other coverage, and you can support us further, like Jess said earlier, by supporting our Patreon. We have a link in the description below. We are covering exclusively there in video form The Pit, as well as Prime Target. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you here next time.